Okay. So, Alex, Marie, and well, tell us how we met. We met in Nashville. I guess this was about a year ago, and yeah, let's just tell us a little bit about where you are. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. Where are you located?
I'm in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, known as Amish country.
Amish country. Awesome. So,
Yeah. I call it PA's best little kept secret though, because everyone thinks it's just Amish country, but really we have a lot going on here. So,
so are you're in the city, or are you in the country?
I live in downtown Lancaster. Yeah.
So, like in the city, how many people roughly do you think are in that city? Just roughly.
Oh,
In the millions, hundreds of thousands,
maybe 10,000. I don't
10,000?
know.
That's kind of small. That's a small town.
It's a small city. The best way to describe it is it's a city plopped in the middle of farmland. So you drive like outside of the city and you're like in
Okay.
farmland. So yeah.
So, do you what's the nearest large city to you?
The nearest large city would be Philadelphia,
Okay. How far is Philadelphia from you?
like an hour and 45 minutes,
Oh,
hour and a half without traffic.
so you're a little bit of a distance. And so the reason I ask is just when it comes to dating, it just seems like country dating versus city dating versus suburban dating, your choices are just different depending on, how many people are you interacting with. And so I kind of did the math where I live. I live in a city that has like 9,000 people. And then I say, okay, 9,000 people, let's cut it in half because only half of them are women, 4,500 people. And then let's talk about out of the 4,500 people, how many are single? About, again, roughly half of people are married. So from 45, we're down to like 2,200. And then from the 2,200, how many are like in my age demographic? Again, maybe only half. And so we're down to 1,000. And then out of that 1,000, how many are actually seeking? Like the number starts getting small. Like, and then how many of those are actually Christian people who share same ideologies? We're down to like 100 people. So anyway, from that size of a city, if you go to a much larger city, like in your city, I guess the number of people in the city where you live, how many people roughly do you think are kind of? You said about 10,000, right? Like
This
within
is just, I'm
30
just thinking
minutes.
about our downtown area.
Yeah.
Our county is massive.
Okay.
So, like, from here to like 30 minutes to 45 minutes, there's a lot going on.
Okay.
So, I should know how many people live in Lancaster County,
I
and
should
I
have asked you first,
don't.
right? Maybe of like
Uh,
100,000, maybe total within
what'd you
30.
say?
Maybe 100,000 at least within 30 minutes of you.
Yeah, probably. So, like, the Christian dating scene here is pretty big, to be honest with you. This is a really, I think it's because of the Amish and Mennonite, ori- like originally here. Um, you can't turn a corner without seeing a church. John Bevere actually visited here in the fall, and he said he came here through his ministry because he felt the Lord say, like, this is going to be a place where revival happens, and it's already started. Every summer we have Jesus rallies through. I wish I could remember the ministry that does that. It's based like I think it's based in California. I could be totally wrong and off on that, but so if Jesus rallies in a tent like every Thursday, there's just a tons of revival happening here. So it's a bit different.
That's awesome.
So
Well, I'm going to jump right into a conversation that you were texting me about, kind of move into everything else. So you were telling me about this guy, and I honestly was completely like, what's going on here? Because obviously there's some back context that I'm not familiar with, but I'm going to give you my preliminary assessment. It just sounded like this guy was trying to get you on board with a specific business idea or plan or something. And your hesitancy was almost in his mind like a sign that he doesn't want to even date you or talk to you or be a friend of you because you're ignoring something in his mind that was very clear and just something that you should be doing. Like, what was that about?
yeah, so we connected a while back and hadn't talked in a little while. So I just like felt that I don't know, I just felt God say you probably shouldn't just like ghost him, even though it felt like he was ghosting me too. Like he wasn't reaching out either. So I just reached out and I just said, hey, this light's like on, sorry. And I just said, hey, like this is why, like I think you're a great guy, but I'm not interested in network marketing as a career choice. Whoever, one of the big questions I had when we first started talking, I don't want to say matched because it wasn't on like a dating app, but I guess we matched through like our singles Christian group. And so I just explained why I was not interested in yeah, being a part of a network marketing thing. Because early on I did ask, would the woman that you end up marrying, would you have them or want them to be a part of the group? And he said yes. And so, after prayer and consideration, that's just not something I feel called to. I feel called to ministry. Not ministry through a network marketing thing. So,
Okay. Yeah, it was just really, to me, it seemed to have highlighted this kind of viewpoint where a lot of guys seem to like, almost like mail order a specific characteristic that they want to see in a girl, and then they're like on the hunt for that specific characteristic. And I'm like, you're trying to like build your pursuit off this really narrow criteria of characteristics that you want customized or tailored to yourself. So that's just kind of what I was getting. I don't know.
Which is what he said about me, which is crazy. Because I was like, that's actually not who I am. In fact, I'm talking to someone right now who we go to different churches.
Yes.
I know about his church, and it's a mega church. My church is pretty large, not multiple campuses. And, it's a little different in preaching style and stuff. And I'm okay with that. Like, right. I'm okay getting to know him. I'm okay going on dates with him. Right. So dating's not about that. It's not about, I think we get into like semantics on like, oh, this person has to match and fit like this little box that I'm trying to build.
Right.
And the most important thing is literally like, do they put God first? Do they love the Lord?
Right.
And then go from there, and see what fruits that, come from that. And, after speaking to that guy, one of the biggest things the Lord put on my heart was like, you can really get to know a person fast by seeing their fruit in like if they don't get what they want or if you're trying to hold things accountable. And he freaked out, so that was definitely an eye-opener there. So
right. I think it kind of goes to what Jesus said about loving your enemies. He basically said, we all love our friends, right? Like even the demons do that. We all love our friends, but how do we treat our enemies? And so obviously if you're dating someone, they're not your enemy, but if you're making them mad at the moment and they snap and they lose their temper and they don't know how to deal with hurt or critique or that kind of thing like that, then, I mean, life is all about critique. If you're raising children, they're going to critique you. They're going to push back. There's going to be, difficulties. And so when you're dating, how does this person manage that which is difficult? So it's all fun and rosy and sunshine when there's hugs and kisses and you're in the, the romantic stage, the honeymoon stage. But then when the real world hits you and life is difficult and there's contradictions and there's problems, how do you manage that? So, yeah, I think particularly for a woman, when you're looking for a guy, what is his temper like? And the Bible just talks about, in Titus chapter 2, basically tells older men to teach the younger men how to be temperate, how to be sensible, how to be kind, how to persevere. So a lot of guys don't persevere. As soon as they hit a bump in the road, they put their hands up in the air. They're like, I'm done with this. And same way with females. This is not really a gender specific deficiency. It's just between both genders, we don't persevere. We're not sensible. We're not temperate, and we do lose our temper. And yeah, so I see that a lot.
Yeah, I do think it comes down to also in the Bible where it says like, it calls men to love their wives like Christ loves the church, because men aren't like fully naturally loving. They can be loving for sure, but in those moments it can be harder. And same with women, like it tells women to respect their husbands because we struggle with being respectful. So it takes intentionality. And so, yeah, I agree. I think
I love that.
I
Like,
think you're not ready for marriage until you learn how to stay calm, cool, and collected in those moments. And it was very ironic because he was saying that I was gaslighting, and I'm just like, I'm sharing my feelings. This is the other problem that I see in dating all over social media that's just spewed online is like narcissism and gaslighting, and it's a very misused topic. I think we all have narcissistic traits. I
so
mean, it
true.
is a form of narcissism and self-centeredness to not follow the Lord's commands and to not surrender. Um, and to struggle with that, I can say like I surrender is a hard thing, you know. So I think everyone has some of those traits, and if you bring out the worst in someone, those traits will come
It's so
out.
true.
So
Yeah, that's
and
just so
then
true. Like narcissism, we all have narcissism. I do think that there's like a fear-driven type of narcissism where it kind of goes before you. You know, a lot of our deficiencies kind of come by after us. You see us, you see our
yeah.
personality, and as you get to know us, then you start seeing these flaws. Where some people, you see their flaws first, and so some people's is narcissistic characteristics. Oftentimes, it's a shield for massive fear or lack of self-esteem. And this self-esteem is not like I'm proud and I need to stick my chest out type of self-esteem. It's the kind of self-esteem where if you see my flaws, suddenly I think I'm worthless. If you know that I make mistakes like everybody else, suddenly I'm not valued. If you know that I sinned yesterday, suddenly I'm not a Christian. It's almost like a works-based type of stability in your faith. If I have not completed all these things, then I must not be, you know, and so that narcissism comes out. They constantly tout their achievements, their money, how powerful they are, how they don't have all the other issues that plague the world. And so you do have that. That's where, and then like you said, the whole gaslighting thing, people kind of like, we go and like take out these clinical terms and then just throw them out there sloppily to different things happening in our life. And it just sounds like now I'm clinically endowed with this medical information to be able to psychoanalyze someone. And so even like gaslighting is like, it's not a one-time thing where someone makes you believe something that's not true. It's a concerted effort over time where it's like making you believe something that's not true over a period
It's
of time. It's
literally
not like
reshaping reality. And
right.
telling your feelings is not reshaping reality. It's literally just being like, hey, this is how I feel and this is what I think. You know, it's not completely trying to reshape what is going on.
Right.
So
that's so true.
yeah, which is definitely misused. So
yeah. And I like your other point too. Like when God tells us something, he's telling us because we're not doing it. It says do not murder. Why? Because we're going to murder. It says do not commit adultery. Why? Because we're going to look at other people with lust and we're going to commit adultery in our heart. It tells us to honor our father and mother because we don't always honor mom and dad. Like everything God tells us to do, he's telling us, he tells Adam not to eat of the tree because Adam's going to eat of the tree. Like you never see God tell us not to do something that we never do in the first place. And so I just like this verse in Titus 2:3-5. It says, Titus 2:3-5. It says, older women likewise are to be reverent in their behavior, not malicious gossips, nor enslaved to much wine, teaching what is good. Also, that they may encourage the young women to love their husbands, to love their children, to be sensible, pure, workers at home, kind, being subject to their own husbands, so that the word of God will not be dishonored. That's a really tough verse because it has a lot in there. But I think
now
through
that
the
you
Holy
said it, I remember reading that verse. I just didn't remember the like where it was. So it's a good one.
Right. And I think every one of these are in here because these are not our natural tendencies. It is not,
of course.
older women are not necessarily reverent in their behavior. They are, we know that they tend to be gossips. That's kind of what goes around. Not enslaved to much wine. I mean, take it however you want it. I guess maybe there's a drinking issue that kind of accompanies that. I don't know, but it's just saying don't
I
be that way.
mean, that there's a lot of bars, and that's what, before I became saved,
Right.
I had no idea how to socialize other than like going out to the bar,
Right.
So
Teaching what is good. And then it says, so that they may encourage the young women to love their husbands. I really like that. It's something that I really pondered on a while. And then I start thinking about modern culture. What are most older women doing? They're teaching younger women to hate men. I mean, I'm not saying when I say most, this term most just confuses so many people because everybody be like, well, I know plenty of women who are not doing that. And I'm like, okay, but most means more than 51%. So, I just see so much behavior online where sometimes women are not always like actively teaching young women, like older women are not actively teaching young women to hate men in and of itself, but they're kind of trying to turn women away from the prospect of marriage. Even my parents in some way did that. So, but it says encourage the young women to love their husbands. And this means they have to like encourage them to love the husbands that they may not even have. This is not necessarily saying, oh, you have a husband. This is a current posture you must take. This starts when the girl is 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. How do you teach her as her mother or grandmother or aunt or whoever you are, whatever female influence you have? How do you teach young women how to be able to be first a woman that a man is going to pursue, and then how to care and take care of a man? It's just something that you don't hear very much. And all this goes to the man as well. Like this is where Titus is talking to the women. Then he starts talking about the men. He starts telling the men to be temperate, sensible, having a characteristic of perseverance. And then it says here in Titus 2:4, it says to love their children. I mean, again, what are women teaching the younger women? Don't have children. Get an abortion. Yeah. Like that's kind of the culture. This is obviously not necessarily Christian culture. This is just the prevailing culture is get a career, don't have children. If you do have children, wait until you're financially stable, that kind of thing. To be sensible, it says, be pure, workers at home. That obviously riles a lot of women up. Like, no, I think women should be boss babes, setting up their own companies. They need to be Proverbs 31 women. And every time women are like, I'm a Proverbs 31 woman. And I'm like, whoa. Are you single? Yeah, I'm single. Well, you're not a Proverbs 31 woman because name the 3 major things the Proverbs 31 woman had. Very first thing, if you would have asked her, hey, what are the 3 big things that matter in your life? She would have said, God, my husband, and my children. If you don't have those 3, you're not a Proverbs 31 woman. For some reason, people always want to like zero in on she's buying a field and she's starting a business. So I'm a Proverbs 31 woman because I'm doing the same thing. Okay, that was one thing she was doing, but that's not even the most important thing she was doing. The most important thing she was doing was taking care of her family and doing things in respect to her husband. And then on top of that, it says her husband praised her in the gates. So if you are a woman and you do have these external motivations and business ideas, if your husband is saying, hey, sweetie, come home, I think you're burnt out, I think you're working too hard, whatever. If your husband is antagonistic to your pursuits, you're not a Proverbs 31 woman. Now, maybe he's wrong. There's obviously room for that. But the Bible is laying out this ideal situation where she's, first of all, it doesn't say anything about her husband. Maybe he's disabled. I don't really know. But it seems like she's kind of, in a way, taking charge of a specific type of business idea she has, but she's all doing it for her family, for her husband, and her husband praises her for it. So I think those are really big things. And so our culture, particularly in the Christian culture, is just always talking about Proverbs 31 woman. And then a lot of women are really sitting back saying, I don't want to buy a field. I don't want to start a business. I just want to stay home, take care of my children. And I think that's a Proverbs 31 woman too, because in this case, you're pioneering what you can. We have to steward what we can. Not every woman has a business idea. So what do you think of that?
My bit, like I am an entrepreneur, but I do want my entrepreneur spirit to, hone into being, good for my husband and my family someday. So I don't want to be this super big boss babe that's just going to distract myself from, being a good wife and a good mother. That's not my goal. I love to serve. That's one of my favorite things, honestly, when I'm in a relationship, is having the ability to, serve the man I'm with. And yeah, so.
That's so good. That's so good. So do you think dating has always been this much of a challenge, or do you think there's some specific variables that have changed today? Obviously, we have social media, but let's try to look at it in context of no social media. Is there still something fundamentally different if we can talk, if we can kind of not talk about like social media
I
influences?
know social media is like definitely the bigger one. I'm trying to think if there's like anything else that, I mean, um, because like with social media, I think even if you remove it, because I'm not even on dating apps or anything, I think like just the mindset of there being so many options out there too, in general, can be a problem, especially if you're having like issues with the person you're with. Your mindset is always on,
Right.
um, oh, I can just go on. And also, it's a lot easier to travel nowadays too. So, I think people too are like, well, I could travel somewhere. If you like to travel, like, I could just travel somewhere and meet someone somewhere someday, you know? Um, hmm. Um, yeah. I think too with here's the other one. The divorce rate is so high in the church and in the world. So I think it just like detracts people from wanting to, put that effort in if your odds are like, oh, this is only going to end up in divorce anyways.
Right.
Why would I put my best foot forward?
Right.
So, but God's not the God of statistics. So we have to remember that too,
That's
which
so
I
true.
have to remind myself of.
Yeah, now I actually saw another statistic that said, you have this broad, I call it the halo of Christianity. You have this broad congregation of people who profess Christianity, and the divorce rate's pretty similar in that halo of Christianity. But then you have the true seed, the true kernel of those who are like genuinely making their faith a priority in their life, and that would be those actively attending an evangelical church and reading their Bibles. Within that smaller seed, the divorce rate is the lowest among any demographic in the world. So,
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's just the broader perception of that, which makes people want to be little, just not intentional. So,
right. And outside of social media, obviously social media is the big destructor of marriage. Outside of that, I think that just technological advances, the automobile, the camera, I would say the automobile really is the biggest one. The automobile, like all of our technological advances, surround our autonomy to be able to be almost anywhere in the world. Even getting to the airport relies on a vehicle to get you there. So, like you said, a plethora of choices. I call it analysis paralysis, where you just have so many choices you don't make any choice at all. And so, if you're
and
having
women used to
problems,
not drive either,
yeah,
so nearly as much as they do now. So,
that's so
um,
true. And this
yeah,
feeling of self autonomy just enables us to feel like, okay, if this person's not clicking with me, I can just swipe left and and get a better experience. And so that is really difficult. It just seems like people don't try. They don't put in enough effort. And so that's kind of lends me to what I've always said is about, the verse in the Bible that I really liked. It was like, this is 1 Corinthians 13:4-7. It says, love is patient, love is kind, it's not jealous, love does not brag. Like everyone knows this verse. Every Christian knows this verse. It's not arrogant, it does not act unbecomingly, it does not seek its own, it's not provoked, does not take into account a wrong suffered, does not rejoice in unrighteousness, but rejoices with the truth, bears all things, all things, endures all things. So anyway, I say that I feel like relationships have to be built on love. Again, we were talking about,
I mean, the Bible says it, like above all else, love. That's our greatest command.
But I feel like
And
people don't know what love is. To them, it's like, oh, I love you. And I'm like, wait a minute. It's got to be more than that. And love, and only recently did I realize love is not true love unless it's sacrificial. You have to be
yeah,
actually giving up something for that person. If you're not giving up something for that person, then that person is a placeholder. They're not, you don't really love them. And Jesus literally came and gave up his life. And if you're in a marriage or in a partnership, if you're not giving up something, and I'm not saying give up your faith, I'm not saying give up perfectly normal human connections. Like some guys try to separate women from their families when they get married. They're like, I don't like your dad. I'm not. Those are not healthy things to give up most of the time. Even if your dad is like not a believer and there's some issues there, you typically have to have leeway to allow her to deal with that particular complex of her life on her own. It's not really something you can get involved with because you're not part of that family and never will be in a bloodline situation. So just when you truly have this sacrificial love, it dispels all these arguments. Like, I was talking to a particular guy the other day. Great guy. Love this guy. He's been a friend of mine. And he said, if I get married, I don't want my wife to be a stay-at-home mom. She must get into the marketplace. She must have a job. She must be working. And I want her to continue working, even if we have kids, basically. And I was like, dude, I want you to rethink this. I said, you don't get to make those choices. What you need to do is find a woman that truly loves you and a woman you can truly love. And then allow God to dictate what she must do. I say, as soon as you marry her, she may get disabled. She may have a kid that's disabled. And now she has to spend full time at home. She had to quit her job. Like, you don't know what script God has written for your life. And if you have these, I call them trauma-based or hurt-based criteria by which you're seeking someone, then you're not loving this person in a sacrificial way. You're trying to tailor them to what you feel will allow you to heal or not be a further representation of certain trauma that you've had, a further extension of some trauma you had in the past. Like, I think he's had some type of trauma in the past with his ex-wife. He was married before. And I don't know what it was. He didn't go into any specifics. I don't want to speculate. But whatever it was, he didn't want her to be a freeloader. That's really the mindset he had. And so I'm like, if you sacrificially love someone, it doesn't even feel like it's freeloading if she has to stay home and entirely depend on your income.
Taking care of the
And then on the flip side, I totally get it. Sometimes you marry a woman and she's pretty high strung. Maybe the Proverbs 31 woman was high strung. I don't know. She's got a lot of energy. She's got a lot of ideas. She's able to keep the house immaculate, keep all the kids in control. And she just has all this free time. And she's like, I need something to do. I need something to do. And if you are a loving man, you says, look, my wife is very industrious. She has so many creativity ideas. I need to give her something to do. I need to make sure she has something to do. I want to allow her to have that space. And so, sweetie, go pursue your dream. Go pursue your job or your business or whatever. As long as she's doing it for her, for the Lord, for her family, for her husband, she's not neglecting any of the more weightier things of her life in order to make these achievements, then I think love would dictate, let her pursue her dream. Like my mom, she does baking. Like she loves it. My mom gets a thrill out of it. And like she's baked for 40 years. You would think she would be done baking, but no, she loves it. It's what she loves to do. And she's at a market now. And so, my mom just has a lot of energy. She's always doing something and she always needs something to do. She can raise 8 children and still do all this baking and cooking and everything. And it's what keeps her going. And so I think when you truly love someone, you kind of take a step back, and it's not about me. It's not me-centric anymore. It's you-centric. It's what is best for her. A very selfless approach. Right, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it just, to me, it seems like people are almost like trying to prescribe a person that they want that just fits this idyllic persona. And I've for a long time tried to figure out, why are we doing this? This seems like a heightened type of mindset that we have in the 21st century that may not have existed as to the level it does today. And it just seems like the advent of technology has made it possible. Whereas you rolled time back 200 years, even just 200 years, people were concerned about survival. We need children. We need more farm hands. We need more farm hands. We need more. I'm having to go out in the hot field and plow this field. And the wife is like, I'm having to hand wash all these clothes. We need daughters. We need sons. And life was just about survival. And when you fought with your spouse, you couldn't fight too long because she was literally in the kitchen making your next meal. And you can't fight with him too long because he's literally having to go out in the field and hunt for the next food. Like, your very life and your very existence depended on you two making things work. And if you two don't make things work and you live on a little house on the prairie, like we read from Laura Ingalls, then Indians are coming tonight. Like, I better take my husband's hand and support him because he's got to defend us from Indians tonight. Like, I'm using a kind of a Wild West story to try to show how people tend to come together in difficulty or calamity. Even when there's like a hurricane, then all of a sudden everybody are like Mother Teresa and they're all sweet and nice to their neighbors that they never have spoken to for 5 years. I didn't even know who my neighbor was till a tornado came through my neighborhood. Like, that's kind of how people are. They kind of come together. Difficulty brings people together. But then when you live in a highly industrious society and it's go, perform, get more material things, do, go on the next epic vacation, then people don't even get to know one another. And the focus is more about having this external facade of success. And it's not about a communal, social effort.
Yeah.
And a buddy of mine told me this, and I loved it. It's something that's really stuck with me. He said he wants to be famous within a 1 square mile radius of his home. He wants to be famous within a 1 square mile radius of his home. And really what he's saying is he wants to have charitable acts toward all the people that really matter to him. My neighbors, just the people around you. And it brings this peripheral type of accountability to where you're not pursuing some social media dream. You're doing things that actively impact your immediate community. And so I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
Also, I follow a Christian big businessman who is very open about the moment that he actually gave it up to God instead of trying to do things all on his own strength and just continuing to work himself to death. The Lord actually made his business boom without him actually having to put in all this effort and do this all on his own strength too. I think a lot of people forget that you don't have to run yourself dry and ragged and do this hustle culture thing. The Lord's going to open up opportunities and open up things. Yes, you have to work hard, but you don't have to do it at the expense of yourself and your health and your family.
That's so good. That's so good. So I've really been impressed with your level of understanding. You seem to have good fidelity, and you do all of that despite having a disability. So most people would, I don't think most people would be anywhere where you are or even have your, and honestly, maybe I should reword this. A lot of people with disabilities seem to have more positive energy. I don't know why. They seem to be the ones achieving and performing, and they seem to have a resilience that a lot of us don't have. And so it's really remarkable. Obviously, it's not anything we wish on anyone, but tell us a little bit, how do you wake up beautiful, beaming, charming, and not complaining? I hate to say this, but the word bitch is a feminine word. It literally applies to, it really means dog, really. It's kind of what it means. We as men, you see men all the time say, we love peace. We love peace. We don't like a nagging woman. There's even a verse in the Bible where it says it's better to dwell on the corner of your home than to deal with a nagging woman.
A nagging wife. Yes.
Exactly. But you're not nagging. You're always beaming and always smiling, always positive, despite having a disability. How do you do it? Tell us the secret. What's feeding into you? What's pouring into you?
Honestly, the Lord. Just before I became saved, like there was just this black cloud kind of felt like it was following me. I was always stressed, always, and up until recently, I still had like moments of that and kicked back and stuff like that. And I got delivered from the spirit of sadness recently, that has been following my family for generations and generations. And just intentional work, honestly, it's not easy. I do live independently away from family, so there's a lot of responsibilities, and I work, so and I have a dog. So yeah, it's just being intentional, rewiring your brain, they like to call it, but with scripture and, godly affirmations is huge. Um, and it's still taking intentional time. You don't just immediately get that like mindset. But being able to bounce back quickly is definitely a rewarding, a rewarding thing. And so, yeah, I just, walk with the Lord, and uh, I, my prayer, like I do intentional praying, but I also throughout the day, I'm just talking to Jesus. Like, if I find something that I was looking for, I'm thanking him. I'm thanking him, for having the mindset. I do. I've done a ton of research on growth mindset versus victim mindset, just being able to see the lessons through what we go through. Not that, God's intentionally putting us through things for lessons. Not everything is God's will, because we do have, the enemy and God and our flesh on earth. So we've got free will, and the enemy at work as well, but he allows things in our life, and to be able to recognize those lessons and be able to grow through that is definitely a big part of it, for sure. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, it's admirable. So it's definitely one of your gifts, and teach the younger women.
I
Teach
love
the
to
younger.
encourage people and spread hope. That's definitely one of the things that has been prophesied over me within the last year, which aligns with that whole spirit of sadness thing, right? I don't know if people realize that when you're given gifts, there's also that pushback from the enemy that can happen that aligns with those gifts. And being able to recognize that has been huge too. Like, oh, I recognize that this is what's happening, and this is not, like, we're rebuking that in the name of Jesus. So
Yes, something I thought of, and this is a quote. You can take it. Your your greatest strength is your greatest liability. So whatever you're really good at, maybe you are a gifted orator, like you're linguistically gifted, you're a great speaker. That's awesome, right? Like there's so much you can do with the power of words. But when you're angry and you're mad, since you're so gifted in your words, you're going to cut deep and you're going to say exactly how you're feeling, and you're probably going to destroy somebody because you are so articulate and you know how to say it in such a way so that it's biting and cutting and destructive. And so that's sort of like the double-edged sword of someone who's articulate. I don't know. There's other talents you can have. I'll use encouragement. Maybe you're just the kind of person who's always beaming and just always encouraging others. Really great. It's awesome. It's an admirable trait. I think at the same time, people who like that can sometimes be a little apathetic towards sin, and they tend to have friends that are like not following the Lord, and they're just kind of overlooking those things, and they're kind of allowing those friends to drag them down. And so you have to be like very discriminatory with who you're encouraging and how you're encouraging them, because you don't want to be encouraging sinful ways, and you don't want to come across as being like mixing.
Yeah, you have to set those boundaries for sure.
Yeah. And so that's kind of a hard thing. Like, how do I like be encouraging and positive, but then at the same time not be encouraging the enemy? So anyway, just a double-edged sword thing.
Yeah, for sure. It can be a challenge too, because I'm definitely the accountability friend. So Some people love that, and some people do not love that. So trying to find that balance is definitely a
Right.
fun one.
That is so good. What are some ways you think women are making dating harder today, and what are some ways you think men are making dating harder today? What are some things you just see women do all the time, and you're like, girl, that doesn't work. Like, you got to think differently. And maybe they're even following the world in whatever it is. And I'm not talking about a specific idiosyncrasy, but more like they're following a worldly culture or a worldly message, and it's just completely ruining their ability to find a quality man. And then same thing with men. This man is just, whatever he's doing, he's not putting God first, whatever it is. And you see this consistently with a lot of different men that you interact with or that pursue you. And you're like, if you would just stop doing that one thing, this is the thing I see over and over that destroys your ability to get a godly woman or runs godly women off. What are some things you've noticed?
I think for me personally, it was always my anxious attachment style and fear of abandonment and loneliness was attracting and putting me in positions to be around men that were not the godly man that the Lord has called me to be with, and has prevented me from being married at this point. So healing within that, I think, our childhood wounds can affect that as well, and do affect that. What am I saying? So I think, yeah, just not dating out of fear and instead dating in faith that the Lord is going to provide that person that he has, instead of being impatient. And then for men in the dating world, definitely lust for sure. What women want is a man who's going to see our soul first instead of trying to have access to, our skin. And so, unfortunately, men, can fall into objectifying beautiful women. And instead of, trying to get to know us first. So, yeah.
Okay, cool. So for women, you said fear, and then for men, you put lust. That's pretty much what I heard. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's good. I think both of those can be definitely a problem. And you hear all the time they say, well, men are more visual than women. And I don't know if that's true or not. I would just say men look for different attributes than women. I was with a female and she was using a dating app and she was literally just swiping left on every guy. And I'm like, what's wrong with that guy? She's like, nope. I don't like the beard. Nope. I don't like the eyes. Nope. Now I'm like, you literally swipe right over 400 men in 2 seconds. Like, what was wrong with all those guys? Nope. And I've seen this happen repeatedly with women. I'm like, so they actually are very visual, but they're looking for certain things. And then,
well, that's the other thing too. Men aren't the best with pictures. So that's the other thing of why I've gotten off the dating apps too, is like, there might be a man, there's probably tons of men on there that I'm swiping left on that if I met them in person, like I would be so attracted to them.
Exactly.
So
great. That's so good. I feel like, I don't swipe through a lot of guys' photos, so I can't really say how bad they are in comparison to years of experience of swiping through women's photos. Women's photos honestly are not that great either. But
they're filtered, unfortunately. I will say that. Yeah.
But the statistics do kind of bear that out. The statistics show, like on Tinder or on Hinge or even Bumble, they said the 80% of the women were only swiping right on about 10% of what they considered the top guys on there. Whereas 80% of the men were swiping right on about 50% of the women. So it was a bigger spread with the men where they were saying yes. A lot more times women are saying no more. And it was just a very interesting demographic. And I think when you tell people this, they'd be like, no, that's not true. But statistics don't lie. They show what humans are actually doing. I think the day of judgment is going to be a big statistical day, and we're going to be like, what? All these people were really doing that? Like, that's not what I would have thought. Like, God is going to rehash the past, and we're going to know it's true when he does it. We're not going to be able to have DW.com fact check us and say, God is wrong. He said X, Y, and Z. Like, we're going to know it's right. Our own internal fact checking is going to confirm the words of God. But yeah, it was really interesting to see what people are actually doing. And so I've studied a lot of this and tried to make sense of it. And it can kind of help you understand better how to approach or pursue or be approached and pursue if you're a woman.
Yeah. And I think unrealistic standards with women are definitely an issue. You see a lot more men who are okay when they're ready for marriage, not, going for all these unrealistic standards of these women, who are, getting lip fillers and doing all this stuff. And with women, I feel like, especially on the dating apps, if they see a man that's like 5'8", it's like swipe left, and it's like, come on, like, that's okay. Like, he doesn't have to be over 6 foot or 6 foot, to be a good man for you.
Right. Yeah, I saw the statistic. I forgot it now, but it said the number of men over 6 feet in the world is less than 13% or something like that. It was a really
it's very low.
Yeah. I'm like, really? It seems like a lot of tall people around me, but maybe I just live in a tall city. But then when I start thinking, I'm like, and then how many of those tall men are single? Like, even fewer. So it's just really a very difficult demographic. I always say this, and it can be a little triggering. I don't think it'd be triggering for you, but I always say women look for the vertical, men look for the horizontal. Women want something taller than them. Men don't want anything wider than themselves. So that's very triggering to people, but it unfortunately is incredibly true. Over and over and over, I see women rejecting shorter men, particularly if the man, not necessarily shorter men, but just if the man is shorter than her. And then over and over and over, I see guys that make 6 figures or feel like, they feel like they are on the upward swing of life. They tend to be rejecting more and more of the women who are not fit and seriously overweight. Not a little overweight. It's not bad, but I'm just trying to say, this is an observation. This is not my personal opinion one way or another. I'll tend to like, my choice with women is pretty wide, but I see over and over professional men who, particularly if they have shirtless pictures of them on their Instagram of them working out in the gym or something like that, or even if it's not on that, you just see that they work out. They tend to pursue women that are similarly motivated, and then the women tend to be pursuing these guys that are tall. And so there's a lot of critique toward men, enormous critique, all the way to the point of silence, I would say, particularly in like the 824 group that you and I share, Heart of Dating, Christian Singles Hub. There's just complete silence when you start talking about horizontal measurements. There's a little bit more boldness to speak about vertical measurements, though, from a female perspective. So talk about that a little bit. What do you think?
I think it's a sensitive topic with women for sure. And it all comes down to how you feel about yourself too. I mean, I'm naturally slender because that's, the genetics I was given. So I can't say like, oh, I know what it's like because, I naturally have that body type. I do know what it's like to struggle like with your hormones and stuff and have to keep yourself balanced with exercise and diet from that point of view and be disciplined in that perspective. Because just because I'm skinny this is the other thing too. Like, just because I was skinny for years didn't mean that I was healthy, as a woman too. So, I think, that's also something to consider as well. But I think, I think instead of just living this lifestyle of like, oh, no matter what, like I'm this, I'm pretty, like a man should love me regardless, like if I'm, not taking care of myself, and that's just not the mindset to have. Like, I feel like, even though I'm skinny, like I still strive to, take care of myself and still, live a healthy lifestyle, because not only is it about my looks, it's about it goes deeper than this. And I think men are scared to talk about it in this aspect because, you know, the outer layer is like, oh, I don't want a woman who's heavier. The inner layer of that is like a man just wants a woman who's going to be healthy for himself and his family and the kids. It's not even about really the look of it per se. It's more about like, is this person going to, be healthy for the family and stuff like that. So
That's true. For me, it's discipline. Discipline is a
and that
very
too, yeah.
is a very attractive feature, and I think probably for everybody, being able to say no to your own vices, to your own appetite, to your own addictions. To me, it's very sexy. I just think somebody who can say no to themselves is like the strongest person, and that's the secret of weight loss, is saying no. So, but saying no to yourself applies way beyond dietary choices. Like, can you say no when maybe you're driving in the car and he has the temperature set at 72 and you're like, it's a little cold, but you can say, I'm going to say no to my own impulses to say, let's change the temperature. Maybe he's listening to a crappy song and been driving for 30 minutes. You're like, I just don't like this song. Can you say no to your own inner voices and say, he loves that song. I can see he's in the zen of a world. He's just zoned out in that song. I'm going to let that song play multiple times and let him, have a good time, or let her have a good time. Being able to say no to how we are feeling for the benefit of the other person, I just think it's really admirable. It's just such an admirable trait. And so being able to say no
is
to
huge for me too.
Right. There's so many social media memes out there that like encourage women. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say no. And I'm like, anytime you say no to something, you're saying yes to something at the same time. And most of the time, these social media influencers I see are like kind of propelling people to think more about self-love. I see this all the time. Self-love, do what's best for you.
And all of your feelings are valid, which the Bible says your heart's deceitful above all else. Like, all of our feelings aren't valid. All of our feelings aren't always going to be truth.
Right. That's so true. And so a lot of life is just saying no to your own impulses.
And your feelings and your triggers. Like,
right.
I've, the people that God puts in our life that might, trigger us or just make us, get a little uneasy, like, that's for us. Like, it's not to, put us down per se, but it's to grow us. It's to show us what unconditional selfless love looks like,
So true. Yeah. Saying no to ourselves, it's how we achieve almost any monumental or thing of value. And it's a very
self-discipline is huge.
and it goes so far in relationships, and if you become so myopic to your own internal feelings, then you kind of have this tunnel vision toward what makes you happy, and you feel like, well, this person's not making me happy anymore, so let's go get the divorce papers. And so that's sort of the mindset of the culture has made people zero in on their own feelings, validate their feelings to the exclusion of their partner. And so that's tragic. I think that's somewhat of a new trend. People are wired this way. Like we said earlier, everybody's narcissistic to some way. We're wired to be selfish. When a baby is crying, I thought about this the other day. Like, I remember when I was like 7 or 8 years old, my blankie would fall off my bed in the middle of the night. And I was scared of the dark. I like to cover my head. I like to be under the blanket. It gave me a sense of protection. When my blanket fell off and I was on a bunk bed, so I was on the top bunk, now my cover is on the floor, I'd start screaming at the top of my lungs, Mom, 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 Mom. And this could be at 2, 3, 4 in the morning. I had not one care in the world for my mom's quality of sleep. She was woken up. She came back there. She put the blanket on me. I can't remember not even one time that she scolded me about, boy, just go to sleep. Like, everything's fine. She just lovingly came, put the blanket on me, went back. And I thought about that as an adult. I'm like, all those sleepless nights of my mom, because I'm selfish. I'm a baby. Babies are selfish. We're born that way. We don't know any better. I'm just selfish. All I know is I don't feel great. Mama, come help me. And my mom, the only thing she's thinking is, he's screaming, he's crying, this breaks my heart, I'm going to help him. Like that selfless love that a mother has, if we could translate that into a relationship, and I'm not saying one partner should just take advantage of the
there
other.
Has to be balance. Like it's
exactly.
two givers for sure.
Yeah. They say it's 50-50, but it's 100-100. Like both people have to put in everything. And honestly, sometimes, and there's never a balance though. There's always one partner that probably loves the other a little bit more, or probably is pushing a little bit stronger, probably solidifying the household a little bit better, probably a little bit more organized, probably prioritizing another one a little bit more. It's almost impossible to be like perfect. But that person doesn't, I think that's what it means when it says love does not take into account a wrong suffered. Like if you really love somebody, you don't even think about, look, I've paid for the meals 90% of the times. You've only paid for them 10% of the times. Like you're not even normally thinking about that. You're like, I just love this person so much. Seeing her smile is just, it makes my heart. Like I'd rather have her smile than the extra money I would have had by being there for her. Like when a relationship's, but again, it has to be mutual. Otherwise you're simping. That's what they call it, right? When a man is just like dumping all this love on a woman who's just not reciprocating. She's just receiving. So, yeah, it's this saying no to our own vices, and culture has taught us to validate our feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sacrificial for sure. Like no matter, and it goes along with, any relationship really is like no matter how you feel, like if you love this person, like you're going to, give up how you feel.
Right.
So,
So I feel like our dating experiences are colored by the people we say yes to or by the people that pursue us.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say yes to bad people all the time, and then they break your heart, and you say, well, if you're a woman and you say yes to bad men, and then they, just objectify you, sexualize you, become physically abusive to you, well, all men are abusive. And then same way with the man, if you only pursue women specifically for their looks and you really don't give a crap about their heart, you're just like, man, she's beautiful, she's a blonde, I found her on Instagram, let me pursue her. Well, she's probably selfish. And so you're going to get the beauty and you're going to get the external validation of having this model next to you, but you don't get that inner beauty. And so you're going to get, she's going to be like just taking all your money, and she's going to be, you're going to say, wow, you're going to come probably as a guy, you're going to say women are expensive and they just care about your money and they don't care anything about you. And I'm like, because you pursued her for her external beauty.
And a lot of men that have money do tend to unintentionally manipulate with their money.
Yeah.
So, I'm not saying they mean it. I'm not saying they're manipulative. That's not where I'm coming from, but they talk a lot about it. And so when you're talking a lot about it, it's like, it's easy to attract a woman who's just going to want you for that if you're not, showing other things too. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of it's self-indicative. When someone's speaking badly of women, usually it's because their choice of women is pretty bad. And then when someone's speaking bad of men, usually their choice of men is pretty bad. Like, you're condemning yourself because there's plenty of great men out there. I have so many of them in my circle. And by the same token, there's plenty of great women out there. Well, I use the word plenty, but I think God's sheep and people who are truly pursuing God is a smaller flock than those that are not. So, but relative speaking, there's still a lot of great people out there. And so if you have all these negative experiences, maybe you need to like reorient your heart and try to decide, wait a minute, how am I pursuing these people? Am I picking them up at the bar? Am I in these low quality venues and cabarets or whatever and finding low quality people? Or am I actually in a quality environment? I'm seeking people who have this positive, spiritual, godly, righteous, upward mobility. And that's where I'm looking for God's people. Where are you looking for God's people at? And then from the external aspect, what am I prioritizing? Am I prioritizing blue eyes, blonde hair, physical qualities, or am I, I may take those into account and think, oh, she's beautiful, but am I really zoning in on those inner qualities? And so I think a lot of times when people are speaking evil of the other gender is more indicative of their own deficiencies. That's my opinion.
I agree. Yeah. Their own insecurities for sure. That's another thing that I would say is like, don't let your insecurities drive dating, because when we're hungry, like, what do we go for when we're really hungry and we can't wait? We go for the fast food, the unhealthy stuff. So that's an analogy that I love, because it's like, no, you don't want to be hungry. You want to be, whole.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, so
That's so cool. Well, there was one other verse that came to my mind, just a basic principle. I feel like in a church setting, so many people will just come to you and say, "Well, it's just about God's timing. It's just about God's timing." But you mentioned something to me the other day. You were like, "I'm a big accountability person." So everything is about God's timing. But we have like this partnership of synergy between us and God, where God is like, I'm all powerful and I can do all things. I'm totally fine with doing all things. I did all things before humans were a thing. But I have incorporated human beings into my plan of creation. And now there's going to be like the synergy between you can make choices, and by your own choices, I'm going to act and bring about things. There's no circumventing God's grand scheme and God's plan, but God has invited us into this synchronized way of bringing about the future. And so I think a lot of times people tend to over spiritualize dating pursuits, and they were like, just wait on God, just wait on God. And I'm like, yeah, but when I was trying to get my college degree, or when I was trying to finish school, you weren't telling me to just wait on God to get a great score. You were telling me, study. You got to get up early in the morning. You got to like really study, and you got to buy this book and read this book and go to this particular place and talk to this mentor and go here and do this. Like, they gave you a systematic way of reaching your goal. But then when it comes to dating, it's like, wait on the Lord. You have to just wait on him. And so it's almost like we over spiritualize this pursuit of marriage. And then sometimes we under spiritualize more secular pursuits in our life, like jobs, houses, cars, money, like all the things we want to achieve in a natural order. We're like, go, get it. You gotta hustle. No one says hustle to find a wife though, right? So how do we like bring a balance into a godly pursuit, but at the same time realizing God is in control and his timing is perfect? But how do we like partner with God's order, God's creation, and say, I think a lot of people under talk about how God is a God of love, God is a God of patience, all these kind of things. We never say God is a God of order. Like, he has order. The rain doesn't just drop out of the sky from a blue sky. Like, it gets cloudy, the barometric pressure drops, and then clouds move in, and there's a rumble of thunder, and then it starts raining. Like, and then it's somewhat the same thing when it comes to like dating. I mean, it's totally possible for my doorbell to ring and a beautiful woman is standing at my door, and she's just like, hey, I just moved into the neighborhood. I'm looking for a godly man. Will you marry me? Can that happen? It's possible. Is it likely? I haven't seen it happen after 40 years of living. Like, I think waiting on something like that is just not going to happen. Or for women, they're like, oh, the postal man, he's going to be single. He's going to show up with a package, and he's going to be like, oh, I never knew you lived here. Would you like to go out one day? And then you get married. Like, that can totally happen. And that's like a really sure sign from God. He just like brought somebody to your doorstep. He asked you on a date. You're married. There are marriages formed like that, but it's not likely. And so how do we like understand that miracles are possible? God can drop a man straight out of the sky right into your backyard and you guys get married. But say, I have to kind of partner with God's normal system of order and take some steps in my life to like maybe improve my chances of actually meeting the person in my life. How do we like reconcile God versus our own responsibility?
I think not just putting your head down and just being so hyper focused on like career and doing things for yourself, you do want to heal and be like a whole person when you're dating and, to get married and stuff. But you also want to stay active. If you're like me, I got all of my serious boyfriends from online dating for like 10 years to the point where I was like, you know what? I'm done with this. Like, I'm just gonna let God put people in my life. But that comes with the fact that, I'm also not sitting at home all day, every day. Like, I'm traveling, I'm active in my community, I'm, serving in different avenues and aspects and stuff. So, I think the balance comes with like not expecting them to come to your like, backyard, but also you can have hope and faith that, hey, I'm going to go out to the market today and who knows who I'll meet.
Right.
Because the minute that I surrendered that to God, like my glow and who I am as a person and how magnetic my attitude is just naturally attracts people to me. So that's also, something to really consider in that balance.
Well, very good. Thank you, Alex, for being on. I think we've reached about an hour in time. So it's really awesome. Maybe we'll be on another time. And guys, if any of you are watching this video, Alex is an inspiration. She has uncommon wisdom and knowledge. And I think if you want to reach out to her, feel free to reach out to her. I think she would enjoy that, right? You're a people person, right?
Yes, I am. Very people person. So love it.
Right. That's awesome. Well, we'll talk again, Alex. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, you too. Bye.
Bye.